everybody, I am Selena Ramos, and this video is gonna be about the modern methodologies that are used to teach English or a target language. So let's check. We're going to begin with the communicative language teaching, okay? So the definition, okay? So what is the communicative language teaching? Is a set of principles about teaching, including recommendations about method and syllabus, where the focus is on meaningful communication and not the structure, okay? The main objective of CLT is to increase the communication ability of the learners in order to enable them to cope with their communicative needs in the target situation. Okay, communicative language teaching uses almost any activity that engages learners in authentic communication, functional communication, activities in which communication is involved, and social interaction activities such as conversations, discussions, sessions like dialogues or role plays. Let's talk about the teacher's role. The teacher facilitates the communication in the classroom, and he also acts like an advisor or a guide. What about the students? The students are communicators. They are actively engaged in trying to make themselves understood and in understanding others. Okay, we got right here a list of typical classroom activity in CLT. Okay, let's see. We got information gap activities, jigsaw activities, task completion activities, information gathering activities, opinion sharing activities, information transfer activities, reasoning lab activities, or role plays. Okay, so there are some advantages and disadvantages about CLT. Okay, as an advantage is that this technique increases the teacher and student relationship. It is an interactive relation. And CLT provides the opportunity for students to be aware of their abilities and exhibit them. The student in this way can learn the target language in an enjoyable way, okay? So, what about the disadvantages? The requirements are difficult. Not all classrooms can allow for groups work activity and for the teaching aids and materials. It is controversial whether it can be used in every level of students. And the teacher should prepare the syllabus by taking student interest and needs into account. However, the energy and time of the teacher are limited. Okay?
Task-based learning. Tasks can be realized situation and have a pedagogical purpose. In both cases, a task should provide opportunities for a student to achieve information with a focused meaning result in a scope that can be shared with more people. Phase of task-based learning lesson. Pre-task. Introduction to topic and task. The pre-task phase of task-based learning lesson is the moment when the teacher sets the task, conceptualizes the topic of the lesson, raises student interest, and prepares learners to perform the task. Task cycle. Task planning and report. When a student finishes performing the task, they need to plan how they are going to report it to the rest of the class or other groups. Feedback or the post-task. Analyze and practice. The post-task stage is when students evaluate their performance. It can also involve feedback provided by the teacher and student practice of language items that emerge from the task. Teacher roles. Moderate. His participating parents might teacher will give the task to the student and then watch the use of the language. Create opportunity to involve every single student. A student role. The entire class focus on them. They need to solve any problem or situation. Task. that the teacher gives them. They can use the language any way they want, as long as it's understandable. Recurring is not that important. Advantage: text-based learning is applied and suitable for the student of all age and background. Students will have a much more varied exposure to language with text-based learning. Students are free to use whatever vocabulary and grammar they know, rather than just the task language of the lesson. Allows meaningful communication. Disadvantage: with more than students, the class will be pointless. Requires a great deal of creativity when it comes to think out the task. The materials are become textbooks. Grammar is not a present at all other push.
CLIL Content and Language Integrated Learning. This method consisted of using English as a language to transmit and teach in other areas of study, such as science, mathematics, art, education, etc. English is the communication tool and not the content to study. The objective is the absorption of the language naturally and not in a forced way, as the language is used in the real life situation and is applied to the context other than those commonly thought when learning language. CLIL Main benefits. It's seen by many teachers as a more natural way to learn language when a subject is taught in the language. Because it has advantages that multiple subjects can be taught in English, thus increasing student exposure to the language, which means that your language acquisition is very faster. Global advantage of CLIL is not seen only as an approach to learning subject and language, but also in an educational context. The exponent of CLIL sees its advantage in terms of achieving linguistics and improving intercultural understanding. In the cultural context, CLIL is seen as the construction of intercultural knowledge and understanding by developing intercultural communication skills while learning about other countries and regions. CLIL in the classroom. The underlying principles of cross-teaching can be found in the fourth CS curriculum called in 1919, which started that successful CLIL lessons should combine elements of the following four principles: contents, communication, cognition, and concrete and culture. Conscious others and me, up CLIL, lesson 2 looks at the content and language in equal measure and often follows four-stage cycle: text processing, identification and organization of knowledge, language identification, and homework for students.
Okay, cooperative language learning. Cooperative language learning is the instructional use of small groups so that students work together to maximize their own and each other's learning. This approach makes maximum use of cooperative activities and students work in teams or groups to maximize their own and other learning. Now, cooperative language learning is an approach centered in the learning and promotes community interaction into the class. Key features. Cooperative language learning because the teacher with a positive relationship among the students and raise the achievement of all students into the class. Replace the competitive objectives of most classrooms in schools with a structure based on teamwork. Goals of cooperative language learning. In cooperative situation, the goals attained by participants are positively correlated. Individuals perceive that they can reach the goals if and only if the other group members also do so. Cooperative language learning provides opportunities for a natural acquisition of second language through the use of interactive workgroups. Through the use of interactive tasks, the learning focuses attention to particular lexical items, language structure, and communicative functions. Learners develop successful learning in communication strategies. Learners increase their motivation and reduce stress to create a positive, effective learning climate. Now about the objectives. The objectives of cooperative language learning are cooperation rather than competition, critical thinking skills, and communicative competence. Now, cooperative learning tasks. Team practice from common input skills, developing and mastery of facts. Number 1. All students work on the same material. Task is to make sure that everyone in the group knows the answer to a question and can explain how the answer was obtained. This technique is good for review and for practice tests. And this technique is effective in situations where the composition of the groups is unstable. Students can form new groups every day. Now about this, we have key elements about cooperative language learning. The positive interdependence. File and mutual support. Example, single product like a score. Group formation. Deciding group size, assigning students roles in group, individual accountability, individual and group performance, social skills. The way students interact as teammates need social skills to keep successful interaction. Structure, ways of organizing students' interaction. Now we have the roles. Student roles. Like a member of a group, they are working collaboratively on tasks within the other members. Director of their own learning. Thought to plan, monitor, and evaluate their own learning. What about teacher roles? Create a highly structured and well-organized learning environment. Setting goals, planning and structuring the tasks, assigning students group roles, selecting materials. Facilitator of learning, and teacher speaks less than teacher front class, pose questions to challenge critical thinking.
Okay, so for concluding this video, we are going to talk about blended learning. Okay, what's blended learning? Blended learning is an approach to learning that combines face-to-face and online learning experiences. So, as you can watch right here, we got the classroom learning, that's gonna be the face-to-face learning, okay, and the online learning, that's gonna be that the task, or maybe when the student is going to get more information, is going to interact in the online way, okay, about the topic that they have been learning. So Okay, let's remember that blended learning is part of the innovative transformation of education in the 21st century. Blended learning involves people as learners, the teacher, administrators, technicians, leaders, and managers with a variety of aspirations and ambitions. Blended learning embraces personal quality learning, right? Okay, this type of education of training implies using many elements of technology and communication and new pedagogical models like virtual learning environments, multimedia resources, virtual communication tools like forums, using the mail, right? Video conference and webinar, we got Zoom to do that, Zoom, okay? And documents and manuals that can be downloaded. Flipped classroom, competency education, and works by project, okay? That is gonna be the involved of tools 2.0, right? You know that nowadays, like since the pandemic started, we are in the online mode, and it's not like it could be like blended learning, because we are using the technology for teaching, okay? And like most of us are using the Zoom for getting that information, and that's gonna be the way that the teacher is going to transmit the information, and for then we are going to reinforce that information by doing homework, project, video. Like we got like here for develop or creativity using the advantages of the technology. Okay, so for the face-to-face activities and virtual activities, we got for face-to-face we got books, articles, and other printed material, master classes or application of knowledge, direct feedback, discussion, and face-to-face evaluation. Well, that is when we are in the presential, classes. That's going like the teacher is going to could do that activities for provide the information for teach. Okay, and okay, so we're going to discuss about why adopt a blended learning model. Okay, we got right here this picture. So it mentions it increases the students' individually progress potentially. It encourages the use of digital tools among the students. It generates interest in bridging the digital divide to boost equality. It broadens the reach by teachers and it involves parents. Okay, and it makes it easier for teachers to personalize learning. It increases the students' commitment and motivation. That's why it's a really good idea to adopt blended learning model. Okay, so we got right here some disadvantages about blended learning. Okay, needs especially develop courses, costly software and hardware. Okay, we have to pay for it. Increases teachers' workload, right? And increases students' cognitive load. Yeah, we know like sometimes the students they don't use in a really good way the digital devices, And okay, let's talk about the role of the teacher. In the blended learning, the teacher is not the only source of knowledge. His invention or guidance remains important for students to build knowledge. However, it now has other roles, such as provide appropriate course content, stimulate learning outside the physical classroom, guide students to obtain reliable information, personalize learning by offering consultations, content, and activities so that each student can advance and obtain knowledge without neglecting its characteristics, difficulties, or needs. Okay, so what about the student? Okay, the student is the center of the teaching and learning process. He is an active protagonist since he applies the content instead of being passive listening to the lectures. And the student builds her knowledge with others. They interact, the social learning. Okay, in the face-to-face class, by interacting with their classmates, when we were in the presential class. Okay, to solve problems associated with content available in the teaching and learning environments. But in the virtual classroom, he is going to work through forums, chats, collaborative activities such as group assignments, wikis, glossaries, workshops, or social networks. Okay, so that's all for this video, and I hope you like it. See you.